And I suppose I should say good morning, everyone, on this 11th of September 2018. One of our very sad days, of course. Welcome, I'm Roy Potter, and this is the Potter Expositor. Back when 9/11 happened, it was, almost surreal, of course. And the sad thing is that even with all the evidence to prove that the government lied to us about what happened, people still are in denial over it. I know a lot of people know what happened that day and have looked at the data and the information. President Trump, when he was just basically a builder there in New York, owned his company, but he knew a lot about structural things, and he sent a team down there on 9/11, and he said that explosives are what brought that building down, not a plane. The planes hitting those steel buildings would not have done that without some help from explosives. And that's if there were actually even any planes. And I know that some of this stuff really goes off into the weeds. But the bottom line is that the two World Trade Centers that pancaked there and that were hit by the planes, and then of course the smoking gun of World Trade Center 7, which fell on its own footprint, with barely fires, in its building anyway. And then, of course, the evidence there at the Pentagon, and all of that's wrapped up in silence under the cloak of national security. We have a wicked, evil government, ladies and gentlemen, and unfortunately, its tentacles go around the world because it's only one part of a larger thing that's going on, of course, and that's this entire New World Order thing. I didn't want to start off on a bad note this morning, but you ought to see my notes here. You ought to see them. I don't even know where to start. I've heard Alex Jones say that before. Talking about Alex Jones now, of course, censorship is the big thing, and it's getting worse and worse all the time. We're told that, Trump's going to try to do something about it, but who's going to do it? Because, Jeff Sessions won't. This whole thing is in a mess, and the coup continues to go forward. We're going to talk about that a little bit this morning. And, I feel just really bad that my concerns that I've been shouting from the housetops for the last 10 years now, but particularly since the inauguration of President Trump, that the good guys have to act. President Trump needed to act right away rather than try to solidify his political strength, because they weren't going to let him do that anyway. And I saw that early on. My Republican insider in California is still saying, he's got to wait. We're going to talk about a little bit of that today and some other things. So anyway, my heart goes out to all of those who lost their lives on 9/11 and their families and loved ones. And just like so many other things that have happened, our governments don't protect us anymore, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we hire them to do, and that's not what they do anymore. They protect their interests, not the lives, security, and well-being of their people. They just don't do it. Not even under Trump. I'm not blaming Trump for that, but boy, I can't believe he didn't know what he was getting into. I blame him for not acting a long time ago, and you'll see why before we're done this morning. So anyway, let's do just a few seconds of silence for the victims of 9/11, if you wouldn't mind. And in that regard, we could also do a few seconds of silence for the victims of Las Vegas massacre, which under the auspices of national security. We still don't know the truth. But a massive surveillance state that's supposed to catch this kind of stuff can't catch those people, can't catch pedophiles, can't catch mass murderers, can't catch terrorists. As a matter of fact, help them to conduct their attacks. And yet we're told that this is necessary for our safety and security, all this panopticon that's going in. The murders at Waco, Ruby Ridge, the Mara building. Oh, that's all conspiracy theory. Yeah. Because the news media is controlled by the intelligence community, and they refuse to investigate what really happened in those places. The first World Trade Center bombing in '93, run by the FBI, got out of control. They're responsible. They actually did it, if you think about it. Yeah, I'm pretty disgusted actually right now. I put up that video about my cruise in 2009 because we get so wrapped up in this business that we do forget. I think sometimes we don't care about it at all. Most people don't care about what I'm talking about this morning at all, or it's just superficial. They don't understand how serious it is. I've had very close friends that called me weird and other names. A girlfriend actually once was really nasty about it. That was after my wife died, of course. Actually, the only real relationship I had after she died. But, knew about things, but didn't want to take any real steps to do anything about it. And most people can't. But then when you try to, you're called weird. You're called a conspiracy theorist or whatever. So here we go down this road, and it looks like Trump's not going to be able to stop it. I hear a lot of good things from the conservative side of the house, the conservative commentators and all. Joe DeGeneva the other day said he's going to survive this politically. Well, maybe politically, but the country may not. Depends on what they told Trump when he got into office. You do it our way or not. Now, he may have said, phooey on you, but so far I'm not convinced. I want to know where his supporters are being rallied. And when I say supporters, I mean people with some clout. I mean military leaders. I mean Department of the Treasury leaders. I mean, which is a problem. The U.S. Marshal Service, Marine Corps, whatever. And like I said, before we're done today, I think you'll understand that this is a really, really bad thing. Anyway, getting back, I put up that video about the cruise, partly because, and I've done this occasionally off and on where, I put something out there for people to look at and to appreciate who may not be able to do those types of things. And in that situation, there's a story behind it. I saw a nasty comment on that video, which I put up after I talked to my daughter Valerie to make sure that it was okay that I put her face on there. But I was afraid that there'd be some nasty comments, and so there were one or two, and I just didn't feel like seeing any more. That was actually a tribute to Valerie for doing what she did, and to my wife that died. And then you have to get these jerks that have to say things that are just inappropriate. So I disabled the comments on that video. The bottom line is that after Carol died, my doctor, my VA doctor, I've never had a doctor like this. The VA has some problems, but this guy was legendary. He was fantastic, and he actually called me up 3 days after the funeral and said, "Hey Roy, what's going on? How's Carol?" And I said, "Well, she didn't make it." And he says, "Yeah, I just had a feeling that was coming up." He says, I need you to come in and see me." I said, "Okay, yeah, always, thank you." So I did, and as soon as I got there, he was ready. He had a sociologist there to talk to me, and ran me through some tests to see how stressed I was and some other things. Offered some pills. I said no, I never did take pills, but sat down and he gets out his prescription pad and he starts writing a prescription down. And he says to me, now I know how you feel about prescriptions, but if you do not fill this prescription, I'm going to cancel your VA benefits for failure to follow my instructions. And I was flabbergasted because I thought he understood me better than that, and I was really upset. And I said, Doc, you know how I feel about that. He says, yeah, and this is what I'm telling you. If you don't fill this prescription, I'm canceling your VA benefits. And he rips it off the tablet, and he hands it to me. And I look at it, and it says cruise on it. He laughed a little bit, and he says, you're going on a cruise. Well, at any rate, I don't know all the details because it's been hidden from me, but apparently, anyway, Valerie arranged for me to go on that cruise to kind of, relax a little bit and get a change of scenery. So that was really a tribute to her to put that up there. So nobody better, well, I disabled the comments, but anybody who would be willing to say the kind of things they were, I tell you what, if I could, I'd come and I'd bust your teeth out. I would. And believe me, I could do it. Anyway, the cruise is out there. Look at it. Sorry about the wind noise. It was a small camcorder, consumer-grade camcorder. I didn't have any way of, the microphone's in the camera, and I couldn't cover the microphone without covering the lens. So you get a lot of wind noise, but it's for real, okay? So I hope you enjoy it. It was an interesting, I think it was a 7-day cruise, something like that. Okay, I've called this video 9/11 and over 20,000 murdered in South Africa in the 12 months prior to last March, the 12 months that year. Over 20,000. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not a crime wave. That's a war. That's a civil war. No matter how you slice it. I've put a link down in the description box below. It's a Drudge report link with a story. Looks like it's out of France. It's been translated into English. We're not hearing about these things here because this is part of the New World Order plan to genocide large groups of people, especially the producers. Sorry, just true. And as that normally happens, I'm not taking this from a racist point of view. I have a couple from Nigeria and their family that moved in not just a few doors from here. Wonderful people. Okay, so it has nothing to do with that. But they do pit us against each other, and they've definitely pitted the whites against, or the blacks against the whites in South Africa. There's no doubt about that. 20,000 murders in 1 year. And that's, like I said, that's not a crime wave. And the government doesn't protect, quite the opposite. The government's still talking about taking the land away from the people. Hey, does anybody know about the BLM in the United States? They just do it the same way, just differently, but they were willing to murder people at Bundy Ranch. They certainly were. National security. Yeah. Those criminals should all be prosecuted, but they never do get prosecuted, do they? So, at any rate, we have a serious problem in South Africa. That's not a crime rate. That's not a crime wave. That's genocide, is what that is, and we're not hearing about it here because that fits into the New World Order's plans. So they just don't talk about it on their avids. Those are the things that the readers, that the talking heads who don't have a brain in their head, but they can look nice and smile. So like Don Henley said, bubble-headed bleach blonde, talks about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye and a smile on her face. It's disgusting. No, you're not gonna have a good time here today with me. You're not. Because I'm tired of the inaction by people that can do something about it despite the circumstances. I understand having to get your ducks in order and to make sure you can do the right thing, but this is getting ridiculous. Okay, so we've talked about 9/11. We've talked about South Africa. And I guess I better go into the coup next because it's gaining momentum despite the fact that Mueller can't find anything on Russian collusion. This coup thing is getting so serious that, like I've already talked about, Admiral McCraven has already thrown his support behind it openly, and there are others. We're getting more attacks on the president in different ways. We're continually told by a lot of people that Trump will get through this, sort of like the thing with Joe DeGeneva. But this thing's gaining momentum behind the scenes, and I don't like what I'm seeing. There are some indications that there are some financial problems coming, and we've heard these threats for a long time. You can listen to any of your financial advisors you want, that are on the tube, on the alternative media, and the whole thing's falling apart next week. We've been hearing that for how many years? But if the coup happens, it will be and I mean the actual overthrow of the president, or attempted overthrow, and I don't mean just by their little legal and behind the scenes machinations that they're doing now. I'm talking about serious stuff. They will use a coordinated attack on the financial realm, going after the financial things. They will attack with 9/11 style terrorist attacks, maybe even false accusations of Trump supporters, trumped up just like the FBI has done for decades now, trumped up charges on people, which I've actually seen them do. And of course, actual attempts possibly against Trump or his family. I mean, we're seeing all these things already. And it's just that, if they can hide the stuff that's going on in South Africa, a major civil war in South Africa, genocide really against whites there, if they can hide that, they can hide this other stuff. But Millie Weaver did a really good report. Of course, she's with InfoWars, but she does her own updates on her own YouTube channel, her own Periscope or whatever it is. And I saw it last night. And she did a very good report on what the Canadian government is now doing. They're readying for martial law in response to the coup that is proceeding in the United States, which will result in martial law in the United States, one way or the other, either by Trump trying to seize control or by the deep state when they seize control completely and want to get people like us, Trump supporters and conservatives, under control. Either way, it's going to happen, and it's getting worse and worse all the time. So when Canada starts making preparations like that, that's serious business. No, Trudeau's not capable of anything. I have no respect for Trudeau at all. But the military leaders in Canada are pretty good. I've worked with them. Pardon my nose. I've worked with them in the past, and I know that they're, by and large, the Canadian Army is very proficient. It's small, but it's very, very efficient and proficient, tactically and strategically. I chose a French-Canadian unit out of, I was out of Quebec. I don't remember exactly where right now. It's been so many years ago, to help me to train a new nation's army that was coming into NATO. And I chose those Canadians over every other army that I had worked with because they were so good. They don't work like the United States military does, where you're constantly getting changed from job to job. The officers, even the NCOs, everybody actually, they keep changing around. They basically stay in their positions, and there are arguments for and against that process. But what it did for the Canadians, they worked it out so well that they are unbelievably good at what they do. So at any rate, they know what they're talking about, and they're getting ready. Okay, your neighbors to the north, Americans, are getting ready for a major coup and possible civil war in the United States. Do you understand that? I don't care if you don't think it could happen or not. Your neighbors to the north are getting ready for it. Wow. I had to bring that up. And along those same lines, this poor Russian lady, what's her name? Maria Butina. You know, why would you, there are a lot of Russian people. I know some Russian women that came here. I didn't bring them. But at any rate, you know, came to the United States. You know, merely being Russian here or even having any sympathy for Russians is a dangerous thing now, and it's all trumped up baloney. From what I can tell about this Maria Butina, and she's the Russian that they're accusing of trying to use sex to get close to people. She got into the NRA, you know, and that kind of thing, supposedly to extract information, and it's all BS. I can tell it. It's all BS. They're going to start arresting, you know what ASMR is? I forget what it stands for, but it real soft sounds and you get tingles. You know, some of the girls go too far with it. I think sometimes. I think I've talked about it before, where you know they're real provocative in their dress and whatever, and so you know you really can't relax watching it. But if they do it right, and a lot of them do, a lot of them are very good at it, and they help you to relax so you can sleep if you're all tensed up. If you know what that is, they're going to start going after them and people that watch them as being Russian sympathizers and Russian agents. I mean, this is out of control. I thought, you know, the hypocrisy of what our deep state is doing is just par for the course. You know, the wall, the Berlin Wall came down. Of course, you know, we went from perestroika to from détente to perestroika, whichever way that went. The point is that, you know, we even sent people to Russia. So under the guise of, well, we're going to help them go into capitalism, when what really happened was we went there to steal from them. And then they finally realized what was going on. They started going after the billionaires, you know, the oligarchs. And guess who befriended these oligarchs who were trying to steal from the Russian people? The American government. The Trotskyites here and the neocons who have to have Russia as an enemy for, you know, perpetual war, constant worry about, you know, nuclear annihilation, you know, whatever fear they can throw at us so that they can keep control. And I think we should really have had enough of this bullshit by now. Those people need to be strung up. So poor Maria Butina here is thrown into prison, thrown into jail on these trumped up, ridiculous charges. But real Russians' collusion, as we all know, runs free. How are we supposed to sit in this country and believe that there is a fair justice system when we've watched what's gone on with this Mueller probe now for, what almost 2 years? Actually, over 2 years? Yeah, he took over the original counterintelligence investigation. Yeah, he did. Okay, so it's been going on longer than that. His name has only been associated with it for what? I don't know, 15 months, something like that. But he was behind the scenes with it. And nobody can do anything. Do you understand the dire situation that this is? And nothing's changing? I appreciate watching Donald Trump, you know, being confident, smiling to the public, giving his rally speeches. And he might be doing things to get ready for this. He's better damn sight, because they're going to take him and his family out. But where does that leave the rest of us? We have traitors in this government. We have traitors in the world against humanity. What's happening in South Africa? What's happening in Sweden? What's happening in Western Europe with the illegal the migrants, the illegal aliens, whatever you want to call them there, the invasion that's happening? Yeah, the West has been decadent. We've gone down the wrong road in a lot of ways, and this could be karma for what we've done. But that doesn't mean we can't wake up, repent, and save ourselves from what's happening. Is it going to happen? Well, I don't know. Prophecy always has two possibilities, at least. But what I'm seeing right now is we're taking the wrong path. You going to get out and vote in November? You know, I did a video about that here a few days ago, too, talking about 9/11, you know, all these attacks by the deep state, the New World Order on us, and the importance of getting out and voting. Oh, but will voting help? Well, it can't hurt. Yes, I know. There's an old saying, and I can't quote it right, but it's something like, if voting worked, they wouldn't let you do it. And there's a lot of truth to that. But as a referendum, as a show of support for what the president says he's trying to do, whether he's actually trying to do it or not, I don't know sometimes. I support him. I love the guy. I love his family. But, it's time to start speaking the truth, President Trump, about what's happening. Now, supposedly this week, he's going to I thought it was going to happen yesterday, but it's supposed to happen sometime this week. Maybe it has, but I don't think so. I haven't seen it. Where the information from the FBI, all of that business on the FISA court, et cetera, is going to be declassified. Why did it take so long? Why did it take so long? Is it timing? Yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe. But Mueller needs to be locked up, and so does everybody associated with him. I'm tired of pretending like this is a legal, lawful investigation. It's not. And I think my anger is indicative and similar to a lot of other Americans who've just about had enough of these criminals and the lack of action against them. As one person said, there aren't enough lampposts in this country to hang them all. So anyway, back on Maria Butina. Here we go, and we talk about, we need to have open trade with the world. This is the deep state talking, and those types of supporters, don't want borders. We need to open up all the countries, right? And then they go after people that have any business association with Russians. Do you see the hypocrisy in that? They only want an open market that they control. And they're after the Russians because the Russians kicked out the oligarchs. They're trying to right their system. They're not in the Western banking system. And the deep state needs a boogeyman. So we even go after little Russian people here and accuse them of all this nasty espionage. Can't prove it, but we jail her anyway. Make a false accusation. Even the judge said in this case, judge's name is kind of interesting, I forget what it is, but she read the supposed, conversation and or the text that the FBI was using and realized, hey, this is just joking around. Even I can see that. The FBI should be shut down yesterday. Lying, deceiving bastards, the whole lot of them. The whole thing needs to be completely shut down. I've been saying it for a long time. Anyway, this whole thing with Maria Butina shows the lie of the open borders and the open markets and the free trade agreements and all that. It shows it. Because they're saying that, she should have registered as a foreign agent of the Russian government. Bullshit. No, they just choose whoever they want. They want to have all this open trade, but as soon as they keep those laws there so they could go after the people that they identify, which of course is to get to Trump and the rest of us. And we sit here and we just twiddle our thumbs hoping that President Trump will do something and read Q drops, which we're going to talk about in a minute too because of something else that's happened. And I brought it up last Friday at an emergency transmission. Might as well get to that now. Let me just say it again. There's a coup in progress, and it's moving into more serious stages, and you better be damn sight ready for it as best you can. If Canada is getting ready for it and you're not, if you won't open your eyes and see what your illegitimate criminal government is about ready to do to the people's choice as the president and what they're going to do to the people themselves, So you think you're going to get by this by keeping your mouth shut? And I know I'm preaching to the choir. I'm just really pissed off this morning. This thing in South Africa I knew was a lot worse than they were telling us. And it's indicative of what they're going to do and have been doing in Western Europe. It's going to get worse. And the thing is, it's going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen. They've been planning this since the 1850s. They wrote things in the 1840s, 50s, 60s, and 70s that talked about this and what they were going to do. But because it's against white people, nobody wants to talk about it because, no, the whites deserve what they get. I remember this guy getting hit in the head with a lock or whatever the heck it was, and they were showing it. You know, the Black Lives Matter did it to this white guy, and they were talking about it, and this black woman got on there and said, oh, please, white people, please, like they deserve it. There is no justice holding somebody responsible for something that somebody else does just because of the color of their skin. And don't tell me it isn't happening, because it is. So it's coming here, folks, and that was the plan since the 1840s, 50s, and 60s, and they weren't talking about the Civil War of 1861, and I talked about that once before. We have interfered in countries where there's been 20,000 people slain a year in a civil war. I'm not saying we should get involved in South Africa. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we better look at what's happening there and do something to prevent it from here, or at least get ready for it. That's what I'm saying. Because those people have already been promised a place to go. How that's going to work out, I don't know. The Russians, of course, stepped up to the plate again, trying to stop this, giving a place for those white farmers to go. Oh, nothing about it in the news media. Oh, yeah. Just real peripheral stuff. It's coming here, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming here. You can close your eyes, you can turn away, you can stick your head in your sand or up your butt, but it's coming here. Trump might be the Cyrus for the Jews, okay? But he's not saving you from this if you don't watch what's happening and get ready for it. Sorry, I'm banging on the table and it's going to interrupt the microphone here. I'm about ready to just stop all this altogether for this other reason I'm going to bring up now. Last Friday, I talked about a very serious thing that was going on. I don't trust Q. I don't follow it. I don't care who does. I'm tired of all the idiots out there. Thank you. She knows who she is. I knew what it was 3 weeks into it last year. You all know where I stand on that. By Thanksgiving, I was pretty well figured out that it was a psyop, that it was taken over outside of the original posters and some other things. And then and I've talked about it before, by the DEFCON 1 baloney, I knew that they weren't who they said they were. Anyway, so, and look at the people backing this thing up. But nothing changes cultic behavior. The believers in the cult, you can never change. Not until something happens directly to them. And sometimes not even then. So I'm not bringing this information up to think I'm going to change anybody's mind. You go down that road if you want to. And I just assume you not come back here. But last Friday, I saw actually it was Thursday night. I saw a post Thursday afternoon. It was sent to me by somebody else. I'll just say that. About this report for the president that was being promoted by Tracy Beanz, Your Voice America, Ann Vandersteel, and Bill Mitchell. Supposedly with intelligence community officials. Prior intelligence community officials. I saw a lot of troubles with this, but I didn't want to come out and make any direct accusations right then. Apparently Unirock saw this also, and so there was a little bit going on Thursday, maybe a little earlier. Certainly by me, I saw it, and I said about my live stream the next morning what was going to be discussed. And so on Friday I did it, and I warned about what I was seeing, that it looked like to me it was another effort to gather a Q type of situation with faces this time. In other words, Q 2.0. What's the problem with this? Is it just giving out information? Is that what it's about? Ladies and gentlemen, I say that's okay because you can't seem to see the dangers in it. I've said that it's okay to get, Q and now this other thing for information, but it directs you away from everything else that's important. And it makes you trust them as if they're gods. And if you don't believe that, look how you get attacked if you speak ill of Q. And, I don't care. Of course, I'll say what I want. But at any rate, so I saw this and I set out that situation about Tracy, Beanz, and YVA on Friday. Well, in the description box below are several links. Along with the thing on South Africa and Drudge, there's a link to Unirock. Unirock does this very long transmissions. He's an entertainer, and he gives you information, and he's an analyzer, and he's very good at it. Man, like I said, if I was still in the military, I'd bring him into CID. That's the Criminal Investigation Command. He's good. At least in some type of analysis situation. He doesn't go in. I'm sure he's bent one way or the other as far as his biases, but he tries to keep those. I'm not saying you have to. Sometimes those biases come out, and that's necessary. But he looks at things in an honest way. And tries to figure it out. And I was even the subject of one of his investigations, and I had to talk to him to kind of make sure that he understood it wasn't quite what he thought, but he still treated me fairly. I couldn't get upset with him, and all that's under the bridge now. But the point is, he makes these very, very long live streams. But so that he does go back. He or his wife Rachel go back and then compact those to just the important part, to maybe a half hour or less presentation. So he takes the long program, gets out the important information, and makes these shorter 20 to 30 minute presentations, two of which are in the description box below. One from Unirock himself, the other from his wife Unirach, to show you what I'm talking about here. And I encourage you to go look at these, because the investigation that Uni did, he broke it open, and there were some others. Monograph again was right up front. He saw it, and some other people, but Unirock does such a good idea. That's who I'm telling you to go talk to. I appreciate Isaac Green. I appreciate a lot of these other folks that have been out in the front of this, trying to expose this LARP, these LARPs, these shams. Again, not that it's okay to get information from them, but that's not what it's about. And I'm not going to review everything that we found out about it here. I'll let you make up your own mind, just like Unirock says. But go look at these things. After my presentation on Friday, I was contacted by Monograph. And I know, again, a lot of you don't like Monograph, but Monograph's a very proficient, efficient, intelligent, technical person. And he showed me something, and he put it on Twitter as well. These former intelligence officials, not Thomas Drake, even came out and said he didn't give his permission for Report the President to put his image on their site, making it look like he was one of the whistleblowers on the NSA. Bill Binney was interviewed by Ann Vandersteel, I guess, a couple days ago, but that's not saying that he supports what they're doing. Sometimes Bill's getting up there, and so sometimes, he might not think things through, but he is. And he's not an operative. Bill Binney's not an operative. He was a mathematician who built the programs. He's not an operative. He's not a manager of the clandestine service, okay? He's a mathematician. That's what he does. He's a coder. But anyway, he was on there. Great. That kind of stuff is fine. I don't have a problem Vandersteel and Mitchell, and I don't have anything against Vandersteel or Mitchell. Like I said, I don't have a dog in that fight between YVA and Mega News Network or whatever's going on there. But I'll tell you what, there was no doubt that this thing was a sham from the beginning, and Monograph pointed out that these great officials, these intelligence officials, really set up their website on Wix DNS, a free website with no security protection. It doesn't cost anything for them to put their website on Wix DNS. They tried to have a little thing there to show that the president logs in on the site. All kinds of crazy stuff. And then we find out more about the people that supposedly Tracy Beanz had vetted. And then when people asked her about that, she goes, no, you guys vet them. She knew who they were. Unirock figured all this out. Monograph had too, by the way, but Unirock really took the bull by the horns. Went through on a really deep dive on it and proved with photographs that Tracy Beanz met these people in a dinner in D.C. prior to her pushing it. And then she tries to pretend, I just found this. It's exactly like the thing with Q, where 2 days in or whatever, she's promoting Q when she was tipped off about it. She and Sather, okay? Well, here she goes again. So they know that Q is losing, folks, right? Bill Mitchell doesn't want to support Q, but he was forced to by Vandersteel, as far as I can tell from the information. So they know they're losing Q on the Q side, so they start this other thing to try to keep these people in the loop. And I would have no doubt that Tracy Beanz is actually still involved with Q behind the scenes, pretending like she isn't. If she isn't I better not make that accusation, but she's not being clean. She is not being straight up with her connections. Should she be? Well, frankly, the fruits there are shouting loud and clear about what she's really up to. And I'm disappointed because I considered her a friend there for a while. Never met her, never even talked to her on the phone, texted her, DM'd her on Twitter and those types of things, and I thought she was for real initially until I found out that Q wasn't what it said it was, and then she turned on me like today. Everybody needs to make money. This is a capitalist system, I understand that. But if you go into subterfuge, lies, and deception, especially when you're saying that the president's behind it, or military intelligence or intelligence officials who aren't, you're lying, and you might be able to sell T-shirts and make money and stuff like that. That way, so that you have something you're actually giving people and avoid some of the laws about, that you could violate, by having products to sell. But the big deception is you're saying that the president is behind you and that the intelligence community in one shape or another is behind you, and that is an all-out lie, both on Q and on these guys. End of story. These guys being report to the president, and YVA and Tracy Beanz supporting them. I'm not going to get into all the particulars. Go watch Unirock's link in the description box below. You can watch Unirach's as well. It'll take up maybe an hour of your time, and you'll understand Unirock does a fantastic job of exposing this and what it is. And I will publicly say I am very disappointed in Tracy Beanz. Not surprised. By the way, she's claiming that she's having to leave the hurricane area. She's been told to evacuate. Maybe somebody can look this up, but I thought she lived in New York State. I could be mistaken, but that's where I understood that she lived. Now, did she move down with Pamphlet's in Virginia, I think, but somebody involved with Q bought a home in North or South Carolina as well. I wonder if she accidentally slipped here and showed that either one, she's still with the Q people and moved to North Carolina or wherever the heck she was. The Carolinas are supposed to get hit pretty hard, the whole East Coast, but Carolinas in particular with this hurricane. But my understanding was she lived in New York State. Somebody might want to check that. I'm just saying it's a little odd to me. her saying that she needs to evacuate. Okay. Wow, how long have we been going here? I guess I better check and see. About 45 minutes, and I've been hooping and hollering the whole time. Let me get on Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec, on this entire coup thing, that's where I'm going to finish up. First of all, let me rephrase this. I'm going to tell you right now. I said use Q as a source of information or whatever. Now I'm saying if you do that, you're being stupid. Okay? You need to get away from that. Go watch Trump's tweets if you want to know what's going on. Watch Trump's tweets. Get the information yourself. Don't depend on these people that lie to you up front about who they are or who they represent or who they have contact with. Get away from Q. Get away from, if YVA and Tracy Beanz still keep pushing this report for the president, get away from them too. And certainly don't trust anything that Report for the President tells you. And I will say that publicly. Go watch Unirock and Unirach. Okay, back on the coup thing, and then I'm going to end this. Jack Posobiec, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 days ago. I'm not even sure it's even available. Did a Periscope. Jack. Yes, he was former naval intelligence. He's probably still in the reserves as an intelligence officer. They went after him, took his clearance away because he supported Trump. At least that's what he said, and I have no reason to disbelieve him on that. But Jack does a pretty good job. Okay, he's shown the Q origins. It actually had more than what he has covered. But he's definitely done a good job on showing those connections, and that they certainly weren't governmental. That the thing started out as a LARP, and then it was taken over by the group of Patriot Soapbox, etc., CPTS. However, you can go look at Unirock's explanation on that and Jack's and all that. The point is that it probably was grabbed by the bad side of the intelligence services. Probably was. And I said on Friday, of course, that no intelligence officials are going to reveal information through Tracy Beanz or YVA. They're just not going to do it. Bill Binney doing an interview, that's one thing, but intelligence officials are going to break, first of all, who weren't intelligence officials, the ones that I'm talking about. I'm not even going to name them. I talked about it on Friday, and Unirock and those guys go into it. But at any rate, getting back on Jack Posobiec. So Jack put out a Periscope warning of how the coup is now gaining strength and that people in D.C. are talking about it and are concerned about it, either because they want it to happen and they're pushing it, or because they're afraid of it and they don't know what to do to stop it. Things are not rosy in D.C. and Trump is not at the helm of the ship. I'm afraid he isn't. We have nefarious, dangerous enemies in this government that want to take it down and take away our constitutional republic. They might even keep, as I've said before, the label on the bottle the same, but they're changing the ingredients. They're changing the contents. The best slave is one who thinks he's free. And so they've been working at this for a very long time. And Jack was saying during this Periscope that it's looking very bad. And I have to agree with him. Actually, what he did, and it's the reason why I'm talking about all this and I'm today, is because of Jack's kind of like testifying that he can see these things as well. So it's kind of like a second witness for my own concerns. Jack's a young guy. He's in his late 20s, but he's not stupid either. And he is in D.C. So I used to have contacts back in D.C. I don't anymore. Pretty much lost those over the years. I grew up there. I grew up just outside of D.C., as most of you know, in Maryland. My mom was in the government. My dad from on and off. I had an uncle who worked in the Capitol building. I've been all through that. I've seen it all. And you have two sides in D.C. right now. Those who want the coup to proceed and are making everything they can, including probably taking out the president if they have to. If they can't get him by 25th Amendment or by impeachment, it looks like they're trying to go the 25th Amendment route, they will assassinate him one way or the other. So they're going after that. So you have those people that want that, and then those people who are trying to fervently stop it if they can. I don't know who Trump can trust on his cabinet anymore. I mean, there are all these accusations going out that this thing at the New York Times was written by everybody from Pence to some low, person in the White House. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do. But what I do know is the fact that they published it. And the New York Times is a tool of the deep state. I hope Trump has an op plan that can go right into an op order at a moment's notice and nip this thing in the bud, but it's going to be messy no matter how you look at it. They're either going to succeed and everybody's going to just kind of go on their merry way when they get rid of Trump, or it's going to blow up into one hell of a war. It's going to go one way or the other. Pray, stay out of the way. Let's see if the chat's on. I know I've been rambling a little bit this morning. There was this, to sum it all up, everything that I've talked about today, it isn't rosy, ladies and gentlemen. My neighbors are out cutting their lawn, they're making their houses look nice, and you've got to live your life. You got to go show, videos of cruises. You got to go out and fish, hike in the woods, hunt, go to movies with your family, have your Thanksgiving dinners, all those things. You can't not do that, because that's what they want to stop you from doing. They want you to be locked in to their digital world, their virtual reality, not doing real things. So I laud you for doing that, but don't think for a minute that they're not out there to take all this away from you, because they are, including your lives. Okay, Tony Blassetti, this seems to be a pattern here. We are talking about Tracy, Beanz, Isaac Green, Unirock, free infomercials. These are people, do you understand something? These are people that are having influence in our community. You can go to Unirock's channel and watch it and not even give a donation. He might bring it up, but that's not a prerequisite for getting the information from him. From Report for the President, they have a free portion, but they also expect you to go in and pay for information that's special and that not open to everybody else in the public, which was a lie. And there were QTubers that did the same thing. Infomercial? No. I'm talking about who I feel like you can trust and who you absolutely cannot. Yeah, go listen to Unirock. Go listen to Isaac Green, because they've already proven they're honest. Isaac Green was willing to allow his channel to be destroyed rather than lie to you. I can't say the same for Tracy Beanz or Jordan Sather. And I met Jordan. I've talked about that. Yeah, I'm also disappointed in him. But, so what? You know what? A lot of you folks, you want to give me advice. Don't anymore, okay? Don't. Stay present. Somebody says, Roy, you think too much. Stay present in the present. Positive thinking doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. There was, remember the Secret, the book The Secret, and all that. Yeah, you have to have a goal. You have to have positive goals and go after them. But don't you think, there's Murphy's Law, and then there's another law that says Murphy was an optimist. We're not supposed to be insects, ladies and gentlemen. Insects specialize. Human beings are not to be specialists. And if you become a specialist in your thinking, you're not progressing the way you're supposed to. Oh, tinfoil. Trump is in Shanksville. No truth bombs today. Yeah. I don't know what his, thanks for bringing that up. I don't know what his schedule, if there even is one, of releasing this information that's been classified and declassifying it. Frankly, I think he's stayed out of this fight much too long as it is. Q's popped up. All this dissension between, that and the rest of us. I've never seen somebody like me calling Q-tubers, that they need to be hung or whatever. But some of them have made death threats against people like Uni and myself. Even Tracy Beanz early on, and I defended her, which I still don't consider a mistake. It wasn't what she was saying. It was the attack on her that they wanted her to go hang herself in a barn, which was a veiled threat. And they said it about Ann Coulter and myself and some other things. The point is, Q's a cult and it's getting dangerous. And they're trying to veer it off into this YVA thing and not so much the YVA, but Report for the President. And it's all still a scam. Go ahead, spend your money on it. I don't really care. But you're going down a bad lane. But at any rate, a lot of comments here. Anyway, I like listening to people, but I get tired of people who haven't done anything in their lives. They've never gone anywhere. They've never done anything. And then want to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about or that I'm wasting my thoughts. Yeah, you need to be in the present. You do. I remember Carol, she used to say, you're negative too much. You need to lighten up a bit. And that's true. I do. But we're in a dire situation here. We've got to wake up to our awful situation. Like I said, if Canada's preparing for martial law when the coup happens in the United States, that's not cool. When they're killing 20,000 people, over 20,000 people a year in South Africa, that's not a crime spree. That's a civil war. That's genocide. These are not things that we can take lightly. Oh, I have no doubt that Trump has body doubles. I mean, that's just common practice for for world leaders. That's just common. That's not surprising. And I heard the one that it might be the case for the First Lady too, and possibly, those types of people, they probably do. I don't get wrapped around in the axle on that, unless things change so much that it's obvious that they've taken over and tried to pull the wool over our eyes. That I worry about. Hank Horlings. Roy, if I were your sergeant, I would say you were close to the breaking point and ready to quit. So keep it together, buddy. Oh, I'm ready to quit. I'm not at a breaking point. I'm just trying to instill in other people a sense of urgency, because too many people want to sit back and watch Q posts and eat popcorn and watch the show, enjoy the show. Are you going to get out and vote in November? There's no sense of urgency there. Everybody's a spy. Everybody thinks they've got, inside information. You got a freaking ring in your nose and you're getting pulled down and you don't even know it because you've got too much pride to admit it. I saw Jordan Sather defending Q the other day, and I wanted to stick my finger down my throat. He needs to go back on his Gaia stuff, because a lot of he's bringing some bad karma down on him. And I don't mean to talk about them. I see somebody's made a comment here about Lionel. Yeah, I know. And I'm not saying you're wrong, Jack Kennedy. It's just that this is the age of deception, and it's everywhere. And there are very few that aren't engaged in deception. We all make mistakes. We all look at something and may make an error in our analysis or what we're looking at. But there are people out there who deliberately, in their DNA, in their minds, in their hearts, want to deceive you for their own benefit, for their own monetary benefit or fame or maybe because they're part of the deep state of the New World Order, whatever. There are very few out there that aren't doing that. And I'm telling you, at least two of them that I know that you can go to, and they'll do the very best they can, that are available to you frequently. And I've told you, Unirock, his program is busy. There's a lot of busy. He even has that sidekick busy, right? The loaf of bread, whatever. And the music sometimes, especially for people, that around my age, and that's pretty difficult stuff to take. But overall, it's good. Isaac Green is good. Isaac Green's changing his format too. He says, "I'm tired of talking about this political stuff. What good is it doing? I'm going to cover some other things as well." And I've gone in that direction as well too. I've taken you to concerts, the cruise, walks in the mountains over the years, things like that. And I plan on doing some more, maybe even some documentaries. But the point is that you're right. You can't let this stuff engulf you, swallow you up, destroy your everyday life. I agree with that. But by the same token, you can't walk around with blinders on either. Red Rider, you're awesome, Roy. Keep it up. Well, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just had a message from a friend, and she says that DNA is the key. Yeah, and I agree with that. I do agree with that. DNA is where it all is. Which brings up, just real quick, I won't delve into this very far, but it's something I probably should someday because I know quite a bit about it. And that's the Sumerian culture, the idea of the Anunnaki and Enki and Enlil. And some of you might not know what I'm talking about, but a lot of that was some of the source material for some of the biblical writings and things like that. And I'm aware of that. But Zechariah Sitchin's take on what that was about wasn't right. Okay, we'll talk about that someday. But the idea of the DNA is real, and it's the reason why certain things happen to us. And I'll talk about that someday. What looks like a curse and what looks like a tragedy might actually be a blessing sometimes. Q is not Trump. Flat picker. Yeah, Q is real, just like the New York Times is real. But he's not a government insider. He's not military intelligence, and he sure as hell ain't Trump. Go. Market that somewhere else. We don't need you here. Okay, if you believe that, you need to go somewhere else. All right. There's no way that Trump's involved with that. Who's telling you that? The very same people that are Q, right? The people that want you to believe that are the people that have a vested interest in the Q LARP, and now in this new one that YVA and Tracy Beanz are pushing. Tracy Beanz is trying to pull away from it because she knows that it's bad news. But I think she's going to do the same thing that she did with Q. She's secretly still involved, looking like she isn't. That's my take on it at this point. I don't think Tracy Beanz would go through an entire document to find one sentence that would support her threateteer position on some secret inside knowledge about what's going on, all of which have never actually panned out. The biggest one being trust sessions. Nope. Lisa Chavez. Yeah, you've been around a long time. Thank you for coming. Roy, did you see Blackstone's vid last night? No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I'll have to go check it out. Jake Morphonios is another great investigative reporter. And I understand his concerns about Trump. I do. I honestly do. And he tries to call it as he sees it. So while, Jake might, not have the same kind of respect for Trump I do, or look at it the same way. I do understand his reticence, his concerns, but I also have a great deal of respect for his very in-depth investigation. So I'll go look at that. Thank you for telling me. If I can get time today, I will. Okay, we've been going for over an hour. Yeah, Jake is the real deal. Doc, I agree. Okay, North Ono 60 says, Roy, please tell me what you're talking about on Canada. I missed that. I came in late. Okay. Canada has now realized that there is, in fact, a coup occurring in the United States that could spill over into a civil war and to martial law. And the Canadian military is now making preparations for martial law in Canada to protect Canada from the spillover from whatever happens in the U.S. That's kind of it in a nutshell. And we can thank Millie. I will thank Millie Weaver for bringing that information to me, and I've checked it out elsewhere, and it is true. Millie Weaver, of course, I think she's still with InfoWars, but that whole thing is having a lot of trouble. As you know, the censorship is continuing. The First Amendment's getting attacked everywhere. You know, they don't want anybody to say anything that's not approved. Well, that's not what free speech is about. You know, having approved speech. It's just like what the BLM did that at Bundy Ranch. The BLM set up a free speech First Amendment area, which was miles away. Well, it wasn't miles. It was underneath right next to the freeway underpass exchange that went down to Bunkerville. They set up a thing there. It was probably wide, and it was probably 100 feet by 100 feet. And it said that's the free speech area. Wrong! Because that's where they want approved speech. Everywhere else would be unapproved speech. They wanted only there. Don't you see what your government is doing and people are allowing? If it hadn't been for Governor Sandoval saying, he didn't do much to help the bunnies, but he did stand up against the free speech thing, against the free speech area, the First Amendment area. That's ridiculous. That's who's running your government. All those BLM agents should have been arrested, at least investigated for violating their oaths of office, the Constitution, and criminal behavior, which I personally witnessed. Whoever that was that says, if I was your sergeant, you need a break. You're probably right. Okay, I think we're done. An hour and 10 minutes. I mean, I could keep going. Aha! Michael Cox. Ishkabibble. Do you know what that means? That means nothing at all. Do you know that? You probably do. That's probably why you're telling me that. There's some poster on Twitter and on YouTube that has attacked me pretty relentlessly. That goes by the name Ishkabibble. He doesn't even, if he does know what it means, that's what he is. And I said that one day. He's nothing at all. But you're right, too. This is nothing at all. This is all an experience. I realize that, but we have to take it seriously, I think. I think we have to take it seriously. It isn't nothing at all in that it is real. It's just, is it permanent? That's probably the other part of it. Jack Kennedy, until we attack Israel from 9/11, we will not be MAGA. Well, I can't disagree that Israel had something to do with 9/11. I think anybody who's investigated that knows that Mossad had a hand in it, okay? And I'll probably get attacked for that, but that's true. But attacking Israel, no, that's not it. That would be like attacking the United States for what, the deep state's doing, okay? Let's be careful there, okay? That's how millions and millions and millions of people lose their lives because of that kind of a thought. Hopefully we can get through this and arise to a new level of understanding of one another. It doesn't say that's going to happen before all this tribulation, and I don't mean to talk about biblical stuff necessarily. Sometimes terrible things have to happen to wake people up, and I'm not looking forward to that. But let's not talk about attacking people. There are other ways to take out bad actors in government, which is what I expect Trump to do, and what I've expected him to do, regardless of the odds against him. There is no other way. There is no other way. He's not going to do it by showing how much he's going to improve the economy and all that. That's not going to do it. All they're going to do is continue the attack, and that's what Jack Posobiec was talking about on his Periscope the other night, and what I've been talking about since at least 2009, but really hard since Trump took office. Right? Syria, yeah, there you go. Michael Friend. Roy, what do you think about the Syrian attacks? We started the Syrian civil war during the Arab Spring, during the Libya thing, all of that. We did all of that, and I am opposed to Trump even talking about a military intervention in Syria to go after the Syrian government. Those people are fighting for their lives now against the very thing he said he was going to fight, which is Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And if he listens to the military-industrial complex and attacks Syria again, I'll have to really honestly question what his motives are. Again, remember, this has been my thing with him for a long time. And his inaction, I mean, look what's happening in South Africa. Oh, Pompeo, go check that out. Check it out? Do we have a strategic interest in South Africa? Do we have a national interest in South Africa? Not really. I mean, honestly, if you really want to know the truth, no, we really don't. But we always want to talk about, what's right and wrong so that we can get into wars. Here we have a real white genocide going on in South Africa, and nobody's doing a thing about it. Not even offering, except for Putin, a place for those people to go to get away from it. And then, of course, the United States, Russia's an enemy. We're going to nuke them. We're going to destroy Russia. We keep listening to these evil, evil voices. No, I'm not an unconscious flag waving my country right or wrong American. I expect us to be better than that. So Syria's a problem. Yes, we already know that all of the... I couldn't believe, what was her name? Naughton or whatever, the State Department spokeslady, who said that they don't buy into the fact that those were false flag attacks by the white helmets and by the Al-Qaeda, ISIS people. How come everybody else knows it but the State Department? Because neocons, Trotskyites, deep staters want this war with Russia, with Syria. They want Syria for that oil pipeline and for other reasons. That shouldn't be we should, as Trump said, we should be developing our own energy. If this is an open, free society, why not let Russia supply Western Europe as a whole with natural gas and oil? Why not? Because the people that say they want the New World Order and free trade and open borders and all that are lying. They're using it to destroy the decent things in the world and the way that we can protect ourselves. Yeah, nation states can be dangerous, but if we have good leaders who won't be manipulated by the bankers, by the Wall Streeters, by the Rothschilds, we can get through this. But too many people want to have their hand out to those folks and are willing to sell their souls and murder millions of people for their own aggrandizement. And yes, it makes me sick. Okay, I'm going to say we're done. Kay Smalls. Hey, Kay, how you doing? Yeah, I got your tweet the other day, by the way. Thanks for the DM stuff. I appreciate that. You and I have been, we can just agree to disagree on some things, but we've been pretty good. And you're right, that little Syrian boy was used as propaganda. It's disgusting, and that's what I mean. And nobody in the U.S. is investigating this stuff. We just go along with war for the sake of war. You think you're going to solve anything by war? No. You never have, you never will. But they want to lead you to... Look at Afghanistan. I did that little expose on Afghanistan the other day, the video. 17 years. Longest war in our history. Do you remember what George Bush said? We're going to go into Afghanistan, but I promise you it's not going to turn into another Vietnam. I promise you we're going to take out the Taliban, which really weren't our enemies anyway. And the opium crisis can be directly traced to the CIA holding on to things in Afghanistan, the poppy fields, etc. Oh yes, and the military. Trump may have bombed some of the CIA labs in Afghanistan, but that didn't last very long, did it? Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming. I know this one was, kind of a let off some steam presentation. I'm sick and tired of the fights that are being promulgated by the leftist Marxist deep state people in the conservative movement. And I'm going to say it again. The people that are warning about Q are not divisive. They see a danger. Same thing with this report for the president business and the YVA and Tracy Beanz. These are dangerous things. They're not sources of information. They're designed to cause strife and dissent. I said early on that if you want to listen to Q, that's fine. Go do it. I'm not doing it anymore. I didn't say that people that follow Q need to be killed or whatever. But we're seeing that on the Q side. Those people. I just saw one the other day. Uni got one. Uni got a threat. And I realize not all the Q people are like that. But the point is it fosters that kind of behavior. It covers for it. Called him a traitor and he needs to be murdered. Raped, I think, is actually what it said. Butt raped. Something like that. I'm very concerned about all of the breakdown in the conservative movement. But that's our weakness. Our independence is our weakness. On the left side, as I've said before, on the Luciferian side, the left side, and I'm going to call it that, leftist Marxist side, they have two things going for them: fear and reward. If you cross them, they take retribution up to and including killing you and your family on the leftist Marxist side. And we've seen it happen. The other thing that keeps you in is reward. You do what they say and they get you money. They give you houses. You get notoriety, those types of things. On the conservative side, we're so independent that we constantly pull against each other. And Jesus said, if you're not one, you're not of me. But he didn't do it by force, right? He's just saying, you've got this thing in you that's constantly pulling against each other. And that's a weakness. He's pointing out a weakness because we refuse to look at things the way they really are. But he didn't say, if you don't do that, I'm going to kill you, right? So at any rate, I'm really concerned about what I'm seeing. I don't dislike Ann Vandersteel and Bill Mitchell. I don't dislike them. I think they've done a great job in a lot of ways. But this was bad. And I don't know all the things that happened between them and people in the MAGA News Network. I don't know about all those things. I know that there was some bad blood there. But I'm a little disturbed by all this doxing and all this. People have financial problems and they have sexual hang-ups and they have, life that's been rough to them and they're just dealing with it the best way they can. That's no reason to hurt them, to try to go after them and hurt them in those ways. Let's stay on the issues. Let's not go after people personally. If you got to attack somebody personally, it's because you don't have a strong enough argument in reality. We got to stop it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just asking them to stop it. I'm done. Thanks for coming. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Things are not going to get better from here on out. They are not. You got to get out and vote in November. You got to show your support. Even if Trump turns around and shits on all of us, we got to show where our intentions are, where our hearts and our minds are. By speaking out and by doing the best you can, voting is one of the ways. Do it. Keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Better to be ready a year too early than a day too late. God bless you. God bless yours. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. And God bless Donald Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Lord send him the spirit of discernment that it may distill upon him as the dews from heaven, even a cloudburst, that he will be able to know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. We haven't got much time left. They're closing the clamps down. They're closing them. They're shutting the doors. Till next time.